Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom's back. Welcome back to another episode of Top Drive. Now, about a week ago, I did a video where I talked about one car that I wanted from each brand in the game. Today, we're going to be talking about one car that each brand should get. A car that doesn't exist in Top Drives right now, but I would like to see added into the game for, whether it's like a sentimental kind of thing, or whether it's for breathing new life into a brand, or something about, maybe car versatility in the game, making sure that there are enough GT3 cars and off-road cars and classic cars and all that kind of stuff. Well, today we're going to talk about one car that I would add into every single brand in Top Drives. Now, there are a lot of brands, okay? There are a lot, and I mean a lot of brands. So this might be a multi-part series. I'll see how the first series does, or the first episode does. If you guys enjoy it, I might make more parts. But anyway, let's start off with AC. There are 20 AC cars currently licensed in the game. Here's one that I would add. This is called the AC Mamba. It has a straight 6 4-liter engine, and it also produces about 230 horsepower. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to introduce one car. I'll give like one quick fact about it, and then we'll move on to the next brand, because in this part alone, we're going to be covering over 30 brands. So the AC Mamba starts us off. Now, second one is the Acura, or, well, Acuras. I mean, this one definitely, they need more legends, right? Because they only have the one legend right now, the DNX, and it's not even that good of a legend. But I would add the Acura ARX06. This was designed for Le Mans Daytona, and definitely would be a brand new legendary added to that Acura collection. So if you're a fan of those kind of, Le Mans style LMP racers, this would be a great one for Acura to add in. Now, moving on, we have Alfa next. Now, Alfa, they recently just got a revamp in EGT. There are some really brand new cars already, like the 2023 Tonale, and of course the 2023 Stelvio 2.0 as well. But what would I add? I would add maybe more performance-centric cars. Here's one for you, the Alfa ETCR. I mean, I'm a sucker for saloons. This is basically an electrified version of the Giulia. It has a top speed of 168 miles per hour, and it looks like a pretty cool car. I mean, again, you can tell that it's electric because it looks just like a Giulia, but it doesn't have a grille, blah, blah, blah. It's getting boring. That design is getting boring, but you know what? This would be, a fantastic, saloon to be added to the game. I'm not sure if it would be a legendary and an epic, but the handling on this should probably be pretty damn good. Now, moving on. AMC. Now, it's one of those brands where just like, oh, did they add everything already? No, they didn't. There are a couple of AMCs that are not in the game, and here's one that I do want to showcase to you. It's a very good looking one. It's called the AMC Machine Go Matador or Matador. It's a good looking car, and it's a very, very fast muscle car as well. To put things into comparison, for its time, it had a 0 to 60 of 6.3 seconds and a top speed of 116 miles per hour. Now, they made two versions of this Machine Go. I believe one has a top speed of 116, which is the one I'm showing you here, and they made an even more radical version of this, which has a top speed of like 144 or something like that, but I couldn't find a photo of that. Anyway, moving on to Apollo. Now, Apollo, this one's a bit interesting because I don't know if this is actually an Apollo. It's definitely a Gumpert, though, but then again, it is called Apollo in Top Drives now. It is the Gumpert Tornante. It has a twin-turbo V8, and it was revealed at the Geneva Auto Show almost a decade, I think more than a decade ago. I think 2011 was the year it came out at the Geneva Auto Show. This one, I'm not sure if it will be classified as as an Apollo, but it is a Gumpert, and I know that it was kind of like a collaboration with another brand called Tornanta or something like that. Again, I'm not too sure, but if it is an Apollo, then this would be, the 9th Apollo that they could license into Top Drives. Moving on is Ariel. Did I have anything for it? Oh, actually, no. Before Ariel, I think it's Arash. Yes, Arash. Arash is up next. The Arash that I'm going to be showing you guys today is the Arash Imperium. It weighs between 900 to 1,150 kilograms. So there are 3 different variations of this car. Obviously, each of which gets more insane. The lightest of which is the 900 kilogram one, and it goes up to 1,150 kilograms. Now, that's really impressive considering that this car is an EV. It is an electric car, and if they can get an electric car weighing under 1 ton is really, really impressive, honestly. So yeah, that is the Arash Imperium, and that is slated to come out, I think, this year or next year. It's on their website. Now, next up is Ariel. Okay, so Ariel, we currently have the Nomad in game, but they did make an even more radical version, which is the Ariel Nomad R. And here's a funny thing: it's only limited to 5 units. Only 5 exist in the entire world. And I would like to think that it's basically just a souped up version of the Ariel Nomad. So that's the Ariel Nomad R for you guys. Now, moving on to Aston Martin. I mean, Aston Martin, this is one of those brands where I didn't really need to, search up on the internet to see what needed to be added to the game. Like, there were some brands where I will be honest, I'm not very well versed about. I don't know Ariel very well. I don't know Apollo well. I don't know Arash well. And that's going to be, for a lot of automobiles over here. But for Aston Martin, I know this one really well. A lot of cars that we could add, like the Valkyrie, for example. But the one that I decided to showcase for today's video is the Aston Martin DB12, which is basically a disproportionate version of the DB11. They have the same chassis, they have the same back, the front is a little bit different, and the performance is also a little bit different. The DB12 is, I think Motor Trend did a review on it, and they said that it was one of the best Grand Tours that they've ever tested up to that date. That being said, it is still overpriced. It is £245,000 if you want to get one brand new. Now, moving on from Aston Martin, we're going to move on to, Audi. Well, Audi has had, its fair share of revamps, but I will be honest, there are still cars that Audi is missing. And here's one that I'm actually a huge fan of that isn't in top drives. It is a very popular Hot Wheel model. It's the Audi 90 Quattro IMSA GTO, or IMSA GTO. This was the super treasure hunt in GKs of 2024. If you collect Hot Wheels, it's a really good looking car. I would really love for this car to be in top drives. Now, next up, this one's a hard one too, Austin. Well, Austin, there is an Austin that isn't in top drives, actually. It's called the Austin 3 liter. Not much to know about it. It's just that it's very rare, and there are only about 52 left on British roads. So that's a car that they could potentially add to the game. Anyway, now we're gonna move on to Automobili Pininfarina, right? This is a fun one. Only 2 cars currently, and I think the third one will also be a prize car. It's the Automobili Pininfarina B95, as they call it. It's worth 4.4 million euros if you want to buy it brand new. Pretty sure you can't buy it brand new. I'm pretty sure it's sold out already, but has a sticker price of 4.4 million, and it's the world's first open-top hyper barchetta, as per, I believe it was Top Gear that I found this car on. So yeah, it's a good looking car. But I mean, Automobili Pininfarina, they make really good looking cars. Anyway, BAC, I got nothing on BAC, to be honest. I can't find a single thing on BAC. So unfortunately, that's a wrap. Nothing on BMC. Now Bentley is up next. Now the Bentley's got a nice little classic one to showcase to you. It's the 1954 Bentley R-Type Continental. It's a really good looking car, and I would like this to be added to the game, actually. Right now, I think Bentley only has one Comet. Yep, it's the Mulsanne S. So, the Continental R-Type would be a good looking car that they could add to that common collection. Obviously, it's going to get no use at all. But it's a fun one. I mean, you could slap the what is it, the ultra, what's the super costly tag? Like, there's like a really expensive tag, right, in top drives, I think. They could add that there. They could add the hyper expensive tag, whatever it's called. I don't know. They never utilize it, so I don't even know what the tag is called. I'm trying to look through if any of these Bentleys have it, but it doesn't look like it. But yeah, I think it's ultra expensive. Maybe that's what they called it. But yeah, they could slap that onto that car and then maybe make an event around it. That might be a great RQ saver. Who knows? Now moving on, the Bizzarini. So Bizzarini, we got one. It's called the Giotto or the Giotto. Guido, Giotto. I think it's Giotto. Giotto. Maybe Giotto. It's named after the company's founder, and it's Bizzarini's first ever like full-on 100%, like it's their own car. So it's pretty cool. It looks pretty nice. It looks like, a very generic Italian hypercar almost. It reminds me of an SF90, but I do like the copper rims and the red. It does go very, very well. Now, moving on from Bizzarini, BMW. I'm really sad that this car was not added in, Enter the Black Forest. They added a bunch of G80s into the game, but they didn't add the one that I love the most, which is the BMW M3 Touring. I've been asking for this car, since the beginning of Enter the Black Forest. I was sad that it wasn't entered in Enter the Black Forest, but hopefully in the next BMW revamp, if they revamp Audi as much as they do, I wouldn't be surprised if they revamp BMW as much as they do. But the BMW G80 Estate M3, I mean, this is like my favorite BMW of all time. So I really hope that one day they'll add that absolutely sexy machine into the game. Now, moving on to Bremen. Now, Bremen, we've got another classic one, because obviously currently in Bremen right now, all the cars are relatively new, right? 2018 and onward. So here's one, I believe it's from the 1970s. It's the Bremen BT33. It is a very decent looking car. I don't know what to say about this one. Honestly, the only note that I have for the Bremen BT33 is if you look at it from a low angle, like looking up, it looks a little bit like a catfish. Because, you know, the grill and like the whiskers coming out the side. I don't know, man. It looks like a catfish to me, but yeah, that's a Bremen for you. Moving on, Bristol. I got nothing on Bristol. Couldn't find anything on Bristol, so Bristol's gonna be a miss. Bufori is going to be a miss as well. I got nothing on Bufori. Bugatti is next. Again, a whole host of cars that we could have gone for. I decided to go for the Bugatti Bolide. It's the most insane Bugatti. It has 1,600 horsepower. And it is a good looking machine. Honestly, one of the better looking Bugattis. I do like it. I think if you take away those headlights, it ends up being a pretty good looking car. So you got Bugatti for that. Next up is Buick. Buick got a really awesome muscle car. Unfortunately, it's not in the game. I'm surprised it's not. They do have the regular version though. It's an uncommon and it's a Blossom choice. Or at least it's an unspoken Blossom choice because I've not updated it in a long time. Where it is the GS400. So basically take this, but like the muscle car souped up performance tire version, and you get yourself the Buick GSX. Really, really good looking car. And the funny thing about the GSX was that it was created to drive people into Buick showrooms. So people didn't want to walk into Buick showrooms at the time. They didn't really have that flagship car. Obviously, this was before the time of the GNX. And, you know, they wanted a car that would really bring people in. So they made the GSX. And it basically shares the same platform as the Pontiac GTO. And also the Chevy Chevelles of the time. But yeah, it was a really cool looking car. Really powerful car as well. I think it had, you know, as always, you know, an American V8 in it. And it was basically meant to bring people into showrooms, which was, you know, pretty interesting tactic, honestly. Now, moving on is Cadillac. Now, Cadillac, obviously, when you think of Cadillac, or at least when I think of Cadillac, I think of land yachts. So when it comes to Cadillac, one I got for you here is the Cadillac Castilian. And fun fact about this car, it was owned by Elvis Presley, or one of the many cars that was owned by Elvis Presley. Now, moving on from Cadillac, we do have a Caterham. Caterham, this is a brand new one. They said that they're going to be introducing this car late 2025. Early 2026. It does not look like a Caterham, or I mean, it kind of does. It's kind of like an homage to a Caterham 21, maybe. Here you go. I present to you the the Caterham Project V. So again, it's slated for late 2025 for it to be released. It's also lightweight, like all Caterhams, but it doesn't weigh, you know, like other Caterhams do. It's still going to be, you know, heavier than all the Caterhams that currently exist. But, you know, the Caterham Project V is still a very light car. It actually weighs lighter than a Toyota GR86. So there you go. Moving on, Chrysler. Chrysler has a very, very interesting car. I actually really want this to come to Top Drives, and I do genuinely hope that this Chrysler is a prize car because of what it is. So this is the Chrysler Norseman. It is a one-of-one concept car. Doesn't exist anymore. So they only made one. It was designed in Italy. It was designed in Turin. And they were going to be shipping the car over to, I believe it was, I want to say Detroit. Maybe Detroit. It has to be Detroit, right? But anyway, it was going across the Atlantic Ocean from Turin to the States. And the boat that the Chrysler Norseman was shipped on was called the SS Andrea Doria, and it sank. So it's actually under the ocean. So this car is, you know, on the seafloor. I don't know what kind of state it's in right now. It's a one-of-one. It's unfortunate because it's a really, really good-looking car. And yeah, it just doesn't exist. I mean, it kind of does exist, but like, you know, it's at the bottom of the ocean. And 51 people died in that shipwreck. So yeah, it's a pretty crazy story. So that could be a prize car, honestly. Now from Chrysler, we actually skipped Chevy. We did not skip Chevy. It's just that I didn't write it down in my notes, and I think because like I already knew that this was the car that I was going to showcase. It's for Wyatt. It's a C5R, man. I don't know why the C5R was not added into American Overdrive. You know, we've got the C6R, we've got the C7R, we even have the C8R, but not the C5. So, you know, that's Wyatt's favorite version of our Corvette. So hopefully that adds on into a future Chevrolet update. I think that they did do Chevrolet justice in this most recent American Overdrive update in terms of revamps. But it was a bit of a shame that the C5R was not included in that. Citroen is up next. Couldn't find anything for Citroen. I'm serious. I actually really couldn't find anything for Citroen. I'm sure that there are a bunch of weird, like, you know, disgusting concept cars that the brand probably made, but I couldn't find anything. Moving on is a Di Tommaso. So Di Tommaso, really cool one actually. This is called the Di Tommaso Pantera GR5 Silhouette. Really good looking. It looks like an homage to, you know, those Japanese silhouette cars of the 80s and 70s. It has produces 500 horsepower, and it uses a Ford V8. It's a very good looking car. It was recently driven on the Nürburgring in 2023. You can find that on YouTube, and it's just really cool. Sounds really nice. Now moving on, DMC. I've got nothing for DMC. Dodge. I mean, Dodge. It's easy, man. Easy. So many cars that I could add for Dodge, but if I had to choose one, and I've talked about this car for so long. Look, man, if Dodge can add a million Audi A5s and all that shit, they can add a million Chargers. And a Charger that they definitely need to add is a 1970 Dodge Charger. This thing is iconic. This is the car that was used in the Fast and the Furious. This is Dom's Charger, right? So my favorite car of all time, I'm glad it's in the game, is a 1969 Dodge Charger RT. Yes, but, you know, they also made a 1970 version, which they removed the split grille, which Dodge at the time claimed for, it was better for aerodynamics. I don't think so. But yeah, they had the 70 version, and they added more chrome on that. There was the 68 version. There was the 66 version, which was the first gen of Charger, all of which are not in top drive. So I really hope that they're added into the game one day in the future. Anyway, moving on from Dodge, we have Donkavort. This is a brand new one named after an airplane. It's the Donkavort F22. Now, this thing, honestly, I think is really popular in Europe or something like that because the demand for this went up. So eventually, Donkavort wanted to only make 50 units of the F22, but because demand was so high, they bumped it up to 75. And when they bumped it up to 75, the car sold out. They bumped it up again. So now they are making 100 F22s. They went from 50 and it doubled. So, you know, good on Donkavort. Good on those little Dutch boys over there. I mean, I say little Dutch boys. They're all tall. I mean, Dutch people are just ridiculously tall. Oh, God. But yeah, named after an airplane, F22 as well, which is pretty cool. Good looking car, I would say. I love the blue on that. Now, moving on from Donkavort, we got Draco. Draco... Nothing. I got nothing on Draco. Sorry about that. You know, they're a brand new manufacturer, and I think Hutch has added every single one already. DS is up next. Here's a monstrosity. It's called the DS XE10s. It's an asymmetrical nightmare of a car. Nothing about this car is symmetrical besides the fact that it has 4 tires, and that's about it. I do not like how it looks. Please, the French need to stop designing cars. They are terrible at it. But this is DS's vision for, you know, the 2030s. That's what they say around the XE10s. So if this is their design language going onwards for the next decade, I really hope DS ceases to exist. Eagle is next. Nothing. I got nothing on Eagle. Fiat. Okay, so Fiat, I got another sport car for you. It's a TCR. So this one is the Fiat Tipo TCR. There are a couple TCRs and top drives right now, and I'm kind of surprised that this one wasn't added with the most recent EGT update. And I think the reason why it wasn't added is because it's not really a Fiat. It is a Fiat, but also it's this thing called a Technodome. It's a Fiat collaboration with something called Technodome Sport. So, yeah, but it's a pretty good looking car. So if they can get the licensing over, you know, I think it would be a pretty nice one. It would definitely add on to the epic Fiat collection. I think we need more of that. There are currently like 4 epic Fiats. The best one is an RQ70. So, you know, this Tipo might be a pretty decent handling car. I mean, I feel like it might be up there with like the Volkswagen TCR, for example. I'm not too sure. I don't know about these cars too well, to be honest, but I do think that it might probably be an epic. Anyway, moving on from Ford, from Fiat, we move on to Ford. Here's one. I mean, again, you know, Ford, they've got 260 cars in the game, but there's so many cars that are missing out of, especially in the Mustang collection. And here's one that I definitely want added to the game. It's the Ford Mustang Shelby GT350. Again, you know, it might be a licensing thing. You know, Shelby is its own entity, I think. I really hope that one day they could add Shelby into top drives. I have a little bit of a cold, so if I sound a little bit different, then you know why. But yeah, Shelby in top drives would be fantastic, right? Shelby Daytona, Shelby Cobra, Shelby GT500, Shelby GT350. And this would be a great little addition. One of my favorite muscle cars growing up, the 1965 Fastback, I believe, or is it 67? I think it's a 67 Fastback. It's a beautiful car. Top speed of 140 miles per hour with a 0 to 60 of 7 seconds, which is the same 0 to 60 time as my own car, which I think is pretty cool. Anyway, moving on, we got a bunch of cars where I got nothing. I got nothing, man. I got nothing on Geo. Sorry, I just have nothing on Geo. I got nothing on Janetta as well. I really couldn't find anything on Janetta. I searched up like classic Janetta, because you see, the thing is, I don't know Janetta very well, so I kind of have to search up like classic Janettas on Google, then like, you know, concept Janettas on Google, then hypercar Janettas on Google, and then Le Mans Janettas on Google. I couldn't find anything, unfortunately, so I don't have anything on Janetta as well. It's a three-peat. I got nothing on Gio Catolo. I think they only have that one car. So we move on to GMC. GMC, I got a really beautiful one, and another American classic is the GMC K1500 Sierra. This was seen in, I feel like this is seen in a lot of TV shows. I'm pretty sure this was probably like a Walking Dead or something like that. But anyway, it's based on the ever reliable Chevy C10 platform, and it's just a very, very good looking car. One of those cars that will last you forever. Now, moving on, Hennessy. This one is a bit of a gray area. It's kind of like that Fiat Tipo TCR. I don't know if this is a Hennessy. I think this car is more Ford than Hennessy, than this car is Hennessy than Ford. Obviously, it's the Hennessy Velociraptor. Again, you know, I just think that this is more Ford than Hennessy than Ford. So I don't know if you want to add that or not. But anyway, that's a car that I want to give a mention to. Holden! Oh, I had to find something for Holden, man. I had to find something for Holden. It took some time to find something for Holden. I feel like Hutch did a pretty good job of adding almost every Holden into the game. But obviously, like, I got Australian viewers out there. I can't let, like, Clarkson and Rambucha down. So I did find one. It's a very good looking car. It's called the Holden Hurricane. It was produced in 1969. It was a concept car, so not really produced, but it was, you know, the 1969 is the year that it was shown, I guess. It has a 4.2 liter Holden V8 engine, and it has no side mirrors. It uses cameras. So yeah, I mean, this is, I believe this is GM's doing, of trying to make something out of the box and futuristic. Good looking car. Yeah, I mean, look at that, man. They were trying to use cameras as side mirrors as early as 1969, so that's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure the Dodge Charger 3 had the same concept as well. Anyway, moving on from Holden, we move on to Honda. And we got two more for this part one. Maybe. If you guys enjoyed, I might make a part two. But it is the Honda NSX GT3. Honda, I mean, currently they got one legend to their name. They got no epic to their name right now. The Honda NSX is the best car that they got at RQ92. And I do believe that the NSX GT3 will add on to that legendary collection. So that's a car that I do believe Honda needs desperately. And just Japanese cars in general. Last but not least is Hudson. I'm genuinely surprised that this was not added on Pacific Coast Highway. It is indeed the 1952 Hudson Hornet, or as I like to call, Doc Hudson. It would be nice if they made that prize car and they give it, you know, like off-road tires as well, you know, as an homage to cars. But yeah, I'm really surprised that they didn't add the 1952 version. They have the 53 and they have the 54, but they do not own the 52 Fabulous Hudson Hornet. It doesn't even need to be the Fabulous Hudson Hornet. They could add two. They could add the regular, the homologation 1952 Hudson Hornet, and they could add the, you know, Fabulous Hudson Hornet and give that off-road tires if they wanted to as well. I think that'd be really freaking cool. But anyway, guys, that is the first part. That's like about, I think there's 32 brands that we covered all the way down to Hudson. If you guys want to see a part two, we'll be talking about cars like Hyundai and Jag and Koenigsegg and Land Rover, Lotus. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville
Pontiac.
Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville
Atlantic.
Blonde hair, don't